Domain and range. Identify the domain and range of each function. Well, normally you think of an XY table, but when you talk about domain and range, you need to think of Dr. Pepper. D is X, are the X's, and that's the domain, and the range are the Y's. So the domain is a set of all the X values. So you've got, I'm just going to circle all the first values. Those are all the X's. The X's come first. It's in alphabetical order. And I'm just going to list them. So I don't need parentheses here. Sorry about that. Oops, well that's not what I wanted to do. Let me see here. Okay, so I've got 15, 3, -12, -1, and 9. It's not necessary to put them in numerical order. Sometimes it's better for organization if you do that. Okay, the range, those are the Y values. In other words, those are the values that are not circled. So I have 2, 0. Now the 0, if you've already listed one number, you don't list it again. So I'm not going to list the 0 again. But I've got a -1, and that's it because I've already listed the 2. Now when you're looking at a graph, your domain are all the X values. So you want to see where the point hits the X axis. So I've got -5. There's another point, go down to the X axis, that's at 1. And the other point, go up to the X axis, that's at 3. So the domain for the graph is -5, 1, and 3. The range, those go over to the Y axis. So let me erase my domain real quick, so then we can do the range. The range is at -2. This point's also going to -2 on the Y-axis, but we've already listed that, so you don't list it again. And then this one goes to 1. So -2 and 1, that is the range. A local bakery sells bagels for 90 cents each. Consider a function for which the input of the number is the number of bagels purchased, and the output is the total cost of the bagels. What are the domain and range in this situation, and explain? Okay, the domain will always be with the words each, per, or every. So the domain is how many bagels you can have. Okay? How many bagels? Now, if you have purchased a bagel, it's not going to be 0. Okay? It's not going to be 0. It's going to be at least 1. Okay? So the bagels has to be greater than or equal to 1. Now, it doesn't say that there's a limit to how many you can buy. Okay? So greater than or equal to 1. You do need to make this stipulation that it's all natural numbers, because you're not going to buy a piece of a bagel, so it's got to be like 1, 2, 3. Your range is always the result. In other words, what it's going to cost you in this situation, the total cost. So your cost is going to be greater than or equal to, well, if you buy one bagel, it's 90 cents. Okay? So what are the domain and range in this situation? And explain. Well, explain, you need to put in words basically what I said. You can buy one or more bagels and it will cost you $0.90 or more. Okay, the function machine, which is an input-output ordered pair for the function machine below. So because these are all capital letters here, it's a multiple choice question. You want to take each one, and remember, this is X and this is Y, and you're putting X in and you're getting Y out. So you want to take the first one. I'm just going to do each of these one at a time. X squared minus 5. I'm going to put in -1 and see if I get -7. So when you substitute something in, it should go in parentheses. And we're going to see if that equals -7. There's your X input and there's your Y output. So -1 times -1 is 1. And 1 +1 and a -5 is a -4. That does not equal -7. So the answer is not A. So then let's try B. Same thing, X squared minus 5. We are inputting a 2. Everything else stays. We want the output to be a -1. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 and a -5 is a -1. So -1 equals -1. We just found the answer. The answer is B. Okay, the next one. Graph a function whose domain is -1, 0, 3, and whose range is -5 to 4. Oops, I'm sorry.